Hunting Hill here on a Tuesday. We now welcome in Adam Rittenberg. Adam's senior writer for college football over at ESPN. He's got a story up right now on ESPN Plus. The midseason hot seat report. Could coaching changes be coming at LSU, Miami, and beyond? Adam, we appreciate some time. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Good. Doing very well. Obviously, you led your midseason hot seat report with LSU. What's your read on the situation?
Right. Well, as you guys know, it's a tough deal right now. 8-8 since the national championship, and there's certainly an expectation if things don't improve in a hurry that there will be a change in Baton Rouge. Now they have opportunities here coming up against some good teams to get things on track, but just with the nature of the loss on Saturday to Kentucky, I think there's certainly more doubt than optimism, even outside of Baton Rouge, about what's going to happen there. So definitely a hot spot, the hottest spot that a lot of people are watching, after last year's cycle, which I think featured more major coaching changes than a lot of people thought because of the pandemic. Three jobs were sort of targeted this year. It was USC, LSU, and Michigan, and USC's already open with Clay Hilton being fired. Michigan doesn't appear to be opening because they're undefeated in the top 10, and so all eyes really are on Baton Rouge and LSU at this point.
In your experience covering this thing on a national level, how much do athletic directors, boosters, power brokers, decision makers consider what's going on other places as opposed to what's happening right in their corner of the store?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to consider it, but I think also you have to look at what your situation is and, your finances and your willingness. I mean, I wrote a lot today about the motivation factor. Money is always a factor in terms of coaching changes, doing them, thinking about them. But ultimately, you have to be motivated. And USC clearly was motivated, making their change after just 2 games. And I do think there's a level of motivation at LSU, especially considering Scott Woodward's reputation as an athletic director. So you're definitely looking around elsewhere who might be willing to leave, whose situation is one that they may want to get out of, and then just who else is available that maybe we're not thinking about. And that's the job of an athletic director and deputy athletic directors and others that you work with before actually going forward with the search.
If you were Scott Woodward, who would be some names on the top of your coaching list if you were to make that change?
Right. Well, again, as you guys know, Scott's reputation is that he has swung big and landed some very big fish in his career with Chris Peterson. No one thought Chris Peterson would leave Boise State, and he gets them to go to Washington. Scott does. Jimbo Fisher, national championship winning head coach at Florida State. He gets them at Texas A&M. So I don't think, again, with all due respect to the Jamie Chadwells and Billy Napiers, I think if LSU makes a change, they're going to try to get somebody who is either a sitting Power 5 head coach, which doesn't happen nearly as often as you think, or someone with Power 5 head coaching experience. And so I think, you certainly look at James Franklin. He's on USC's radar as well. But I think if Penn State doesn't get to the playoffs this year, there'll be a sense that he's kind of done all he can do there. And, winning a Big Ten title, 3 top 10s, but unable to get to the playoffs. I think he would want maybe a new start, whether it's LSU or USC. Mario Cristobal is very interesting, guys, because in many ways he's what LSU wants, a relentless recruiter who will compete with Nick Saban and others and Kirby Smart on the recruiting trail, but also, is now shown that he can oversee a program, hire really good assistants. He's won multiple conference titles at Oregon. They may win a third one this year. Now, he's very expensive because he's got a $9 million buyout in addition to the other costs LSU would have to pay. So those two guys, I think you make a run at Lincoln Riley, you make a run at Dabo Swinney. I mean, LSU is one of the best jobs in the country. The last 3 head coaches have won national championships there. So I think you absolutely go for those level of coaches. I don't know if Mark Stoops is seen as a home run, but he's done a great job at Kentucky, which is 6-0 for the first time since 1950 at a program that really hasn't had a whole lot of success in the SEC until he got there. So I think LSU has no shortage of options if it does go ahead and make a change.
How good's the USC job?
I still think it's a great job. I mean, especially with NIL, if they're able to strategize and be aligned with the possibilities in that market, I think it's again, you have the most tradition on the West Coast in terms of winning national championships. You have the most tradition in terms of Heisman trophies. And, a star at USC is a big deal. And I think when all things are equal, with all, I respect what Mario's done at Oregon. I think USC is the best job in the Pac-12, and with an expanded playoff, they're going to have a great chance to be in there. So if you're James Franklin and you're, in my view, at the second best job in the Big Ten, some people would say it's the third best job in the Big Ten. What could USC, tempt you to make a move to a new region where if you have it going, you're the best job in that whole region of the country, or going to LSU, where they've won national championships under multiple coaches. But I think USC still has a lot going for it, and now they have a competent athletic director, they have a good president, and so I think there's more alignment there than they've had in the past.
Adam Rittenberg is our guest. Works for ESPN. Got a great story up on ESPN about the head coaching marketplace right now in college football. It's the midseason hot seat report. Let's kind of move around a little bit here, Adam. Your thoughts on Cincinnati and their playoff chances, and then Luke Fickell's future?
Right. Well, I think, Cincinnati, as long as they continue to win, they should be in that conversation, but they may need some help. They likely need, either the Big Ten or the SEC to have only one playoff entrant. If both leagues have two, then they're out. If one league has two and SEC is still looked at as the likelier of the two leagues to have multiple playoff participants, that reduces their ability to get into just one slot. So, and the problem that Cincinnati has, the biggest one, is that their schedule is just not going to be that impressive, even if they run the table. They need Notre Dame to keep winning. They need SMU to keep winning until they play Cincinnati in Cincinnati in late November. They need Houston to keep winning to maybe match up with them in the AAC title game. But that conference, this isn't as strong as it's been in the past. Now, with Luke, I think Luke's in a good spot. He loves Cincinnati. His wife loves Cincinnati. They're from Ohio. They're heading to the Big 12 in the near future. And so, his desire to maybe leave, even for a USC, the athletic director there, Mike Bone, hired him at Cincinnati. I don't know if it's that strong. I think if there's a premier job in the Midwest, in Ohio State certainly, or Notre Dame, or maybe even Penn State if James Franklin were to leave, that could be an interesting option for him. But he can also ride it out at Cincinnati. As somebody told me yesterday, a prominent source in the industry, as soon as they get into the Big 12 without Texas and Oklahoma, they're probably a top 3 job in that league. So by no means does he have to leave anytime soon.
How important was that win last week for the Texas A&M football team? Do you think Jimbo's in the hot seat if he starts this season 0-3 in the SEC play?
Not with what they owe him, no. I do think it's an important win, though, to just validate some of the things that they're trying to get done there. Because you don't pay Jimbo what A&M is paying him, and that additional raise before the season, which I know I laughed at. You don't do that unless you're trying to win national championships. Now, they're not going to win a national championship this year, but they showed that they can compete with a national championship caliber team and beat them and do something that Nick Saban assistants they just don't do, which is beat the master. And so a big moment for A&M. They're recruiting really well. And when Haynes King comes back, it'll be a very interesting situation if Zach Calzada continues to play like this, because it looks like there was a massive gap between the two, and he seemed to close it against Alabama. So they have a lot of talent there, and they're recruiting well. But now, again, it's still another year where unless there's some crazy things that happen in the SEC, they're not going to be part of the playoff.
He's Adam Rittenberg, our guest here on Hunt and Hill. Adam, let's go to what we'll see in Tiger Stadium on Saturday, LSU in Florida. Your thoughts on that one?
Well, again, I think LSU is going to have to put out a much stronger performance. They just, again, weren't very competitive against Kentucky, getting down the way they did. They're struggling on both sides of the ball. Now they're back home where fans are unhappy. How are the fans going to receive the first mistake, whether it's a touchdown allowed or a turnover or just something? And how's the team going to respond to that? They hear, as much as they want to say they don't hear, that they know what's going on outside the program. They know what you guys are talking about. You know what I'm writing about. And it's difficult for college athletes to not let that affect them. But I think, again, they beat this team last year. I don't think talent is ever the problem at LSU. It's more cohesion and scheme, and is everybody on the same page? Are they avoiding mistakes? We saw Florida really struggle when they went on the road to Kentucky a couple of weeks ago. Their defense played great, and they still lost the game. So I think this is still, I think every game for LSU is still winnable pretty much, and maybe not Alabama, but they're going to have to certainly perform at a much higher level than they did this last week in Lexington.
How good's Kentucky?
I think again, I spoke with their defensive coordinator, Brad White. I love their defense, and they have really good pieces in all three levels of a defense, which I like to judge a defense. Is there any weakness? And I don't think that Kentucky, even though they lost some good defensive linemen to injury, there's no glaring weakness on defense. For me, they have to avoid turnovers, and they were very, very fortunate. They were last in the country in turnover margin through the first 4 weeks. They still may be down there at the bottom. And they haven't lost a game. Now, that's not a formula that's going to last. They certainly can't turn it over this weekend against Georgia and have any chance. So I think their offense and their coordinator, Liam Cohen, is really interesting. So is their quarterback, Will Levis. But if they don't, if they turn the ball over, we're going to start to see some losses there. If they don't, and they're in games till the end, they've shown they can win close games, and they've shown they can win games in different ways. So I think it's a pretty solid program. I don't know if they're a top 5 or top 10 program, but they've gotten it done so far at home. And you've got to give them credit for that. Now the challenges will come on the road.
If someone would ask me Iowa would be the number 2 ranked team in the country halfway through the season, I wouldn't believe them. How legit do you think this Iowa Hawkeye team is?
Yeah, they are legit. And again, the thing with Iowa, you have to look at them differently than a lot of other programs because that's how they play. They're not a team that's built to score 50 points a game or to have 10, 25 yards or long explosive type plays. They're very complimentary. One of their star players is their punter, who's just outstanding, and he continued to pin Penn State deep in its own end. They're a team that likes to win by making less mistakes than the opponent, and they've obviously done that really well this year, leading the nation in takeaways and interceptions. They're excellent on defense. They're a back-to-front defense, which really puts a lot of elements on zone coverage and keeping their eyes on the quarterback. And they have a veteran secondary filled with playmakers. So it's a really, really good group overall on defense. And then on offense, they kind of just do enough. And they're going to have to do more, I think, going forward to remain undefeated. But it's a very, very strong team with a lot of good leaders.
He's Adam Rittenberg, senior writer on college football for ESPN. You can follow him on Twitter at ESPN Rittenberg. Got a great piece up on ESPN.com now. You can go check it out. Adam, we really appreciate some time.
All right, guys. Appreciate you.